This is Matthew Kratter from Trader University, and today I want to talk about Bitcoin saying, "Go fork yourself, Greenpeace." So this story begins with a guy named Chris Larsen. Chris Larsen, one of the executives and founders over at Ripple. Chris Larsen really hates Bitcoiners. He's urged regulators to punish Bitcoiners, and he calls Vitalik Buterin a hero. So you already get the feeling for what this kind of guy is like. The other thing to know about Chris Ripple is he's being sued by the SEC for conducting unregistered securities offerings over there at Ripple Labs. So he's in a lot of personal trouble, but he is also quite wealthy because he printed up a bunch of XRP. People will tell me he didn't print up XRP, but it magically ended up, most of the supply of XRP magically ended up over at Ripple Labs. And the main business of Ripple Labs is to dump these tokens. That's their main source of cash flow. And then what Chris Larsen is doing now is he's giving that money to groups like Greenpeace to help run anti-Bitcoin ads. And this is what we saw come out of Greenpeace USA right after the Ethereum merge. The long-awaited Ethereum merge is here. It's moving to proof of stake, cutting its energy, blah, blah, blah. This is the press release that was put out, basically trying to put pressure on Bitcoiners, and large corporations that are involved with Bitcoin, trying to put pressure on Bitcoin to change from proof of work to proof of stake. Here's an excerpt from the article. The campaign is urging the biggest corporate partners and institutional investors, Fidelity Investments, PayPal, and Jack Dorsey's Block, among others. We can imagine there'll be equal pressure on Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy as well, to push Bitcoin to move away from a high-energy proof-of-work protocol. Now, one question you might have is, will this work? Of course it won't work. This never works with Bitcoin. Large corporations and powerful political forces tried to change Bitcoin. They tried to change the code back in 2017 and push through larger blocks, and they failed. They combined with it was Coinbase, it was Grayscale, it was one of the main makers of ASICs, and all of these large corporations. They tried to push this through, and they failed because all the Bitcoiners who ran full nodes refused to run the new code. And I should mention also that the large Bitcoin miners were also involved in this fighting on the side of the large corporations, and they all failed because it's really the Bitcoin full nodes that are in charge. You can make whatever code you want, you can write whatever code you want, or change whatever's over at GitHub for Bitcoin, but you're not going to get Bitcoiners to run something that increases the supply or that moves Bitcoin from proof of work to proof of stake. And I would say that even if some of the really high profile names in Bitcoin came out, like Michael Saylor and Adam Back and Jack Dorsey, and I could name probably 20 others, if they came out and created a new proof of stake version of Bitcoin under pressure from Greenpeace and other environmental groups or political groups, I can tell you that I would never run that software on my Bitcoin full node. I would never do it. Neither would you if you're running a Bitcoin full node or any of the 10,000s of plebs worldwide, globally running full nodes. So this is really a waste of their money. But you can see here how Ethereum is always being used to attack Bitcoin and how altcoins are used to fund attacks on Bitcoin. But what I would say to Greenpeace is, instead of running these ads, because you're never going to, first of all, Michael Saylor and Adam Back and Jack Dorsey are all good guys. They're never going to move or encourage Bitcoin to move to proof of work because they actually understand the protocol, unlike the idiots over at Greenpeace. But I would say to Greenpeace, why don't you give it a try? Why don't you go fork Bitcoin yourself and see what happens? Because Bitcoin's an open source software. You don't need anyone's permission or the permission of influential Bitcoiners to fork it. So why don't you fork it, copy the code, stick in some proof of stake garbage, and then send me over some proof of stake Bitcoin tokens. Everyone who currently owns Bitcoin will get some of these proof of stake tokens, and hopefully some exchange like Coinbase will be dumb enough to list it, and we can all dump our proof of stake Bitcoin tokens and use the money to buy more Bitcoin, the real Bitcoin, proof of work Bitcoin. If you're finding this video helpful so far, I just encourage you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel. So this is a very good reminder, as I said, that if you buy altcoins, if you're buying Ethereum, if you're buying XRP, you are either directly or indirectly helping to fund attacks on Bitcoin. Chris Larsen is wealthy only because there were a lot of dumb retail investors who bought his token. Also, I would say if you donate to Greenpeace at this point, you're helping to fund attacks on Bitcoin. Not to mention that Greenpeace has been around forever. They've really outlived their usefulness. They were fairly decent in their early days, but now, as this article points out, they've lost the plot. They've struggled with internal sexual harassment, a lot of bad things going on. They also, here's a guy named Daniel Batten, who's an environmentalist on Twitter, who's been urging people not to cancel their donations to Greenpeace. He said that Greenpeace USA is sort of acting out of line by accepting this bribe from Chris Larsen. He did some calculations and said that Greenpeace has already lost more than $15 million in donations because of their attack on Bitcoin. And this is the power that we have as Bitcoiners. We have increasing the political power and the power of the purse. What Daniel Batten's arguing is that they don't deserve this because this was a rogue action by Greenpeace USA. But I would say this is not true. If he had done a little bit of research, he would have found this tweet from Greenpeace, which is still up, saying, linking to an article on nature.com, very anti-Bitcoin article that's still up on the Greenpeace Twitter account. Also, if you just go to the Greenpeace website, the general, greenpeace.org, you can see here an attack on Bitcoin from May of 2022. As I've covered it extensively on this channel, and I don't have time to do it in this video, you can go back and look at all the videos. I'll link to a few of them below. Bitcoin is not bad for the climate. It's not bad for the environment. It can be used to capture wasted or stranded natural gas. It can be used to suck up all the methane that's coming from landfills and use that to power Bitcoin miners. Greenpeace has a very superficial understanding of Bitcoin. They haven't done the work, and their attack, which is funded by an altcoiner like Chris Larsen, their attack is completely dirty and completely unfair. And talk about polluting the environment. When you put out misinformation, I can't remember the law, but it basically takes 10 or 100 times the effort to counter misinformation than it does to not put it out in the first place. So Greenpeace is polluting with their articles, and they're really fighting against the new world currency, which is coming, which is Bitcoin, which is going to do a lot for the developing countries and all the people who are suffering because of the noxious influence of the US dollar and fiat money all around the world, all the hyperinflation, etc., which affects all of these people in developing countries much more than even climate change does in their immediate daily experience. Greenpeace continues to be anti-science. They continue to be against nuclear energy, and they really don't have a good explanation for this. This is basically a political position that they took in the late 60s or early 70s, and they haven't really, they're sort of trapped, I imagine, by their donor base to continue to push this, but this doesn't make any sense. If you want to decarbonize, and Greenpeace does say that they want the world to decarbonize, but you're against nuclear energy, which doesn't produce any carbon emissions, what are you doing? Do you think that you can actually use wind and solar to mine all of that lithium, lithium mines and other materials needed for EV batteries? And I would ask Greenpeace, are you happy that Germans are going to be burning lots of wood in their fireplaces to keep warm this winter just because Greenpeace helped the Greens over in Germany shut down all of their nuclear power plants? Also, Greenpeace, what do you expect people to do who live in places where it's not always windy and the sun doesn't always shine? If you're going to be against hydrocarbons and fossil fuels and against nuclear energy, it'd be nice if you'd have a solution for the world's poor. But Greenpeace is very stubborn. They don't understand nuclear energy. They don't understand Bitcoin, and they're being funded by an altcoiner. This is really just an unbelievable turn of events. If you want to drill down a little bit deeper in why Bitcoin mining is good for the environment, I'll link to this video below, as well as this video on how Bitcoin mining helps the electric grid. And you can also search on my channel. I probably have 100 videos about Bitcoin's energy usage. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.